Welcome everybody. It's Wednesday night. It's youth night. You're here on YouTube Premiere. Welcome. We have a great night planned as usual, and to get the night started, we are going to start with a little discussion in the chat. So, over there in the chat, tell me, what is your favorite season and why? Let's go. Okay, awesome. Sounds like there's lots of really good answers and a variety going on over there. But in case you're wondering, my favorite season is spring, and it's coming so soon. I just love when the snow starts to melt and the flowers start coming out of the ground and you can go for a walk without bundling up and putting on snow pants. I love spring. So typically now we'd go into a game, but your small group leaders have something planned during Zoom small groups tonight. So stick around for that. And we're gonna head into some worship now, followed by the last teaching session of this series. So here we go. Take it away, Hannah.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us again for another week of our awkward series. Feels awkward saying that, and we're in week number 4, so glad you can join us online. Tonight we're going to kick off with another awkward conversation, and it's about dating. So when you hear we're talking about dating, how does that make you feel? Well, it probably depends who you're talking about it with, right? I mean, if you're talking about your crush with your best friends, or you're journaling about it, that's probably not that big of a deal. But when it comes to talking about your crush with maybe your parents or your small group leader or maybe people here at church, well, that could be a little awkward. I know for me, I never wanted to talk to my parents about who I was dating. That was way off bounds. It felt awkward. I didn't want to do that. But no matter what you think about dating, we think it's important to talk about it, as well as sex and sexual desires and all that stuff that comes with it. It's just way too important for us to skip over. So we know not everyone watching this is actually allowed to date right now, and we also know not everyone who's watching this wants to date. But we know it's important to have these conversations now because we want the best for you in all things, which includes, you guessed it, dating. We also know that what's best for you when it comes to dating can be difficult to figure out, right? We have so many sources of information or influences about dating. There's influencers that are posting on, or we see it in movies and TV shows and on Instagram or TikTok or whatever the new social media is, these perfect couples and all these illustrations of what dating should or maybe shouldn't be like in the news. And dating relationships are not always picture perfect. So you may have experienced this in your own relationships or seen it with adult relationships around you. They can be awkward, frustrating, disappointing, messy, confusing, and weird. The truth is relationships can be less than perfect sometimes. So I want you to think of a time when you were watching a TV show or a movie where you saw an example of a really awkward relationship. See if you can picture that right now. What are some of the most awkward relationships you've seen on TV? Okay, so if you personally haven't experienced an overly awkward situation dating, I'm sure you can talk to almost any adult or older teenager, and they have, because relationships are often less than picture perfect. That's because dating has the potential to be awkward. Just ask my wife about our first date. But knowing that, many of us know what we expect or want or hope from our relationships. And maybe right now you feel like, I'm ready to date, but you're not allowed to. Or maybe dating is all your friends are talking about, but you're not into it as much. Alternatively, you could be ready to date, but it feels like no one has noticed you yet. I wonder if that's more common this year through 2020 and 2021 with us being stuck at home a lot less social interaction. Or finally, maybe you just started dating for the very first time. So I don't think it matters what category you fall into. You probably still have an idea of what you expect or what the perfect relationship should look like. So let's see what you think the perfect relationship should be like. I'm going to list some things, and I want you to raise your hand if you think that this is something that you agree with, or put it in the comments, okay? We're not all together in a big room, so it's not group participation, but jump in the comments and tell me if you agree with this. Okay, so the perfect relationship. A perfect relationship is one where they get along with all of our friends. Do you agree with that? What about a perfect relationship is one where we both look like Instagram models and take the best couple photos? Emoji. I feel like there should be emoji at the end of that sentence. I don't know which one. A perfect relationship is one where we enjoy the same activities like sports or knitting or sledding. I'm out of activities. A perfect relationship is one where our longest Snapchat streak is with a special someone. I may or may not have had to ask somebody what a Snapchat streak was. A perfect relationship is one where we are never jealous of the person they sit next to in math class. Is that even an issue this year when school is at home? A perfect relationship is one where we have dinner at their house to meet their parents. Ooh, now did you ask the parents to date them before dinner? A perfect relationship is one where we get to hang out whenever we want outside of school, but only if they're in your bubble. A perfect relationship is one where we laugh at the same things. I think that ties in with the Instagram one. A perfect relationship is one where our palms don't sweat like the Amazon rainforest when we hold hands. Okay, raise your hand. You don't have to put in the comments if you have sweaty hands. Okay, that's gross. A perfect relationship is one where we both make the best couple TikTok videos for everyone to see. I don't know what that means. A perfect relationship is where we don't have a lot of drama or fights. Okay, that's my list. So, how many of you agree with it? Are those things that you think would be make you the perfect couple for dating? So when we think about dating, a lot of times we focus a lot on what we want the relationship to look like. That was the list that we just went through. Those are things that we want our relationship to look like. We think about who we want to date, what we want the relationship to be like, and the kind of stuff we want to do together. And while that's all important things to consider, especially when it comes to being in a relationship, I think we often forget to ask what we should be focusing on before we even start dating. It's important because our answer impacts what dating looks like for us and even who we choose to date. Look, even if you're thinking, this is deep and all, and I'm not even trying to date right now, I get it. But it's still an important question for us to think about because we're laying the foundation for our future relationships right now. So even if you're not dating or not interested in dating now, understanding what we should be thinking about when it comes to dating and relationships is important. So I'm going to circle back on that and say we often forget to ask what we should be focusing on before we start dating. So if you're not dating right now, this is perfect. And if you are dating, it's still perfect because these are good questions to ask yourself what we should look like before we start figuring out what our relationship should look like. So when it comes to dating and relationships, where should we look for help? And how can we make sure that we're focusing on the right things when it comes to dating both now and in the future? Well, there's actually some pretty old advice that might be helpful for us today. And a couple thousand years ago, a guy named Paul wrote a letter to the Christians in a town called Corinth. And Paul started sharing the message of Jesus with people all over the world. And one of the places Paul went to spread the message was this town called Corinth. And after he spent some time in the city, Paul wrote a message to them to remind them of what God says is best for them. In his first letter to the Corinthians, Paul included a couple of sentences that can help us here. And in fact, I think it's exactly the kind of stuff we should be thinking about when it comes to our relationships. So check it out. Okay, 1 Corinthians 13, 4-7 says this: Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice in injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up and never loses faith. It is always hopeful and endures through every circumstance. Here Paul lists what God says love looks like: patience, kindness, faithfulness, hopeful, and lasting. When we think about that kind of love, isn't that exactly what we want other people to give us? I mean, honestly, we don't usually think about the type of love Paul mentioned as being about the other person in our relationship. We want the other people to be patient. We want them to be kind. We want them to be faithful. We want our dating relationship to be lasting. When we read that list, we see as a long list of things that we want in the person that we are dating. And to be clear, that's a good thing. God does want us to have this kind of love in all of our relationships. He wants us to look for people with those characteristics, not only in dating relationships, but in our friendships. It's an important list. But we shouldn't just look for them in other people. Instead, we need to be focused on finding this great stuff in ourselves. And so here we need to stop and look internally. We need to consider that we're that kind of person. Becoming a person God made us to be is so important and a huge part of allowing God to develop all those great characteristics on Paul's list in ourselves. What Paul wrote about 2,000 years ago is still what our lives and our love should be made of today. How cool is that? So no matter if you choose to date or not, one step you can take towards becoming the person God created you to be is to practice sexual integrity. Basically, that means to respond to sexual things that we feel or that we think or that we desire in a way that respects ourselves and others and God. Dating may be a very real way for you to learn to live out the important characteristics Paul wrote about. But you don't have to wait until you start dating to practice sexual integrity or learn to live out these characteristics. In fact, we need to put these characteristics into practice even before we think about dating somebody. Think about it like this. Focus on becoming love before looking for love. Okay? So we're going to think about focusing on becoming love before looking for love. Focus on becoming love before looking for love. Becoming love, looking for love. Say it with me. Focus on becoming love before looking for love. Good. Got it? I'll take that as a yes. Perfect. Let's move on. So I don't know where you are with all this dating stuff. Maybe you're already dating or aren't allowed to date yet. Maybe you're waiting to date someone, or maybe you're just not really interested in dating. That's okay. Wherever you are, you have the opportunity right now to live out the characteristics of love that Paul wrote about in his letter to the Corinthians. The reality is God has given us all the power we need to become the type of people he wants us to be. So instead of using dating as a way to look like the right person, let's focus on developing the characteristics of love that Paul listed. Let's focus on becoming love before looking for love. And so how can we do this? First, pick one of the characteristics Paul listed that you want to develop in yourself. Maybe you could use more patience, or maybe you want to be quicker to forgive, or maybe you want to cut back on rude comments that you're making to those that you care about. What if you just started picking one of those characteristics in yourself that you wanted to grow and then practice that characteristic? Seriously, try it. If you have a tendency to be rude to those people, then give them a compliment instead. Go out of your way to compliment those people. And if you're impatient, then practice your patience with your responses and how you respond to people. Slow down. Think about what you're saying. Or instead of holding a grudge, practice bringing up what hurt you and talking through it with that person. None of this is easy, but all of it can be so good. Real love takes a ton of work. If you're going to become love before looking for love, we're going to need to focus on growing the characteristics necessary to be the type of person whom we would want to date. So a person who is kind, patient, honest, humble, hopeful, and all other things that Paul mentioned. Hi, Penny. Penny would also like to practice some things. Penny, what characteristic would you like to practice? She said patience. She's going to be more patient for her meals. Oh, you're getting big. Anything else you'd like to say? No, she's done. A wave. Bye. So the last time she's going to come down and interrupt me. She doesn't like being held up. Look, dating can be awkward, okay? But it's not always going to be awkward. It's going to get better in time. But right now, before we even start dating, it's important to start taking those small steps towards becoming the person God created us to be. And in doing so, we can help practice sexual integrity both now and in our future relationships. Just imagine if dating could be the best thing that ever happened for you and for the person you're dating. And even if you're not dating right now, focusing on becoming love is so important. Becoming these characteristics of love that God has created. Now, some of you may be saying, hold up, what's with all this relationship talk? I'm not interested in relationships. That's okay, but you're never too young, or it's never too early to become the person that God created you to be. So that's why we spent the last 4 weeks now talking about these things. We want you to be the person that God created you to be, and we want you to focus on becoming love. These are such important conversations. And that's why, though some of these conversations about sex and sexual desires and dating, they can be really awkward, but we want to have those conversations at church because we believe they're so important. And we don't want the conversation to end here. We want to continue in your small group and with your small group leaders. So as we wrap up this teaching time, the thing that I want to leave you with is, what characteristic do you want to develop in yourself? Think back to the list, 1 Corinthians 13, verse 7, there's a listing there. Okay, what is one characteristic that you can take and focus on for the next week or month or year? Okay, so share that today with your small group and hold each other accountable as you work towards becoming love.
And just like that, we wrap up our February teaching series. Thanks to David and Josh for bringing in that last bit of teaching tonight. Next week, we start a brand new series called Discipleship, and we'll be all together on one YouTube premiere with Maddie Eckert bringing in our first session. All right, now we're gonna head over to Zoom for our small groups. You're gonna have a game with your leaders and talk through some of the teaching today. Have an amazing week, and if you need the link, find it in the parent email or DM the team on Instagram. Have an amazing week, you guys. We'll see you next Wednesday.